This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for care by a doctor or other qualified medical professional. This podcast is provided with the understanding that it does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services. If you're looking for help, seek out a qualified medical services provider or other healthcare professional. Welcome to the Live Your Yoga podcast, a podcast dedicated to discovering and sharing all the ways in which yoga can be lived off the mat. Real stories by real people, just like you.
Welcome to the Live Your Yoga podcast. I'm Joanna, and in today's episode, we're diving into one of the most asked about topics here at Your Yoga Flow studio, hosting workshops and retreats. So whether you're a teacher who's dreaming of leading your first event or someone who wants to refine your current offerings, this episode is here to make the process smoother, clearer, and more accessible. We'll explore what it really takes from planning and logistics to create a meaningful experience that aligns with your values. So let's get into the FAQs and help you to feel more confident and supported as you step into this space. Okay, so let's get started with something simple. What's the difference between hosting a workshop versus hosting a retreat? So usually a workshop is a much smaller event. Often a workshop is 2 to 4 hours in length, usually hosted at your regular teaching facilities, such as your yoga studio, community center, maybe out of your home, perhaps online. And a workshop is often something where you can dive into a deeper aspect of teaching. And so if you have been growing a community for a while and they're starting to ask questions and be more curious about elements of the practice, such as perhaps meditation or breath work, maybe you have a community who are really interested in the subtle energy body, perhaps they are curious about the chakras or the practice of Ayurveda. Maybe you have a community that are really interested in sleep and how to create better sleep hygiene. So maybe you have a community that really want to dive into nervous system resetting, yin and restorative practices, sound. Maybe you have a community that are really interested in these hybrid practices, maybe where you bring in aromatherapy and yin yoga, or you bring in sound and hatha. So a workshop often is a deeper exploration of your current offerings, and that is why they're usually a little longer in length. A retreat, on the other hand, tends to either be anywhere from a half-day offering to a full day to a 2 or 3 day offering, or even up to a week or 10 days, depending. So a retreat is a much deeper immersion. It's usually an escape from reality or a reset from reality, and you're coming into an environment that is detached from your everyday. And this usually involves planning meals, transportation, accommodation, and of course, the daily offerings that you will be providing. So the key differences between hosting a workshop as to hosting a retreat is usually the duration of time, and also the financial input, as well as perhaps the location that you would choose to offer each of these offerings. Okay, so what are the first steps a teacher should take if they're thinking about offering a workshop or a retreat? So, first steps would be obviously to be listening to your community. Does it feel like something that your immediate community would commit to? Because it's one thing you wanting to put this on, and it's another thing as to whether you're going to fill the spots. So I think the most important thing is to listen to the community and see if it's something that they feel ready for, confident to invest in, because that will be the biggest green flag to let you know it's a good time to pursue this. If you are not looking at this as a financial opportunity and you just want to dip your toes in and get some experience, you might be less concerned with how many people show up and just be more interested in doing it. So if you are not worried about coming in at a loss, perhaps, or breaking even, you might not be as concerned about how many spots you fill. But if you are looking at this to make some financial gain, then of course you want to be listening very closely to your community to make sure that you can at least break even on your first try of this and hopefully make a little bit on top. Not only are you listening to the community to discover whether this is something that they would be interested in investing in, but you're also listening to the community to establish what themes they are interested in and whether you should dive in at a workshop level or a retreat level. Personally, from my own experience, I would say dip your toes in with workshops. It is a great way to learn how to put on a bigger event, become more used to holding space for a longer amount of time, and understand the logistics involved in advertising and promoting, prepping and planning, and facilitating your event. What kind of financial and logistical planning is required? Okay, so this is going to get into things like deposits, participation, minimums, payment timelines, contracts, all that kind of thing. Again, different as to whether you're hosting a workshop or a retreat. So let's first look at workshops. So if you are hosting a workshop, it will firstly depend on where this is. If this is a workshop you're hosting out of your home, your financial commitments up front will be, of course, a lot less because you won't be renting a space and organizing the logistics with the owner of that space as to when it is available, etc., etc. So one of the big things to consider with a workshop is the where and how many spots you're going to need to meet your minimum requirements. So maybe that's to cover the rental of the space, your time and energy, any additional gifts or offerings that you're giving to the students as a takeaway item. So you'll have to do your calculations based on the money that you are putting up front for these events as to how much an individual ticket price would be. That is the exact same when you are booking a retreat. Usually with a retreat, your upfront payments are considerably more. So the risk is a lot more. Usually deposits are 25 to 50% of the overall payment, obviously depending on where you're going and what you're doing and the relationship you have with the retreat center. So it's a big upfront expense. So you have to, again, do your calculations to make sure that you're going to be able to meet your minimum requirement and that the price point per person makes sense. Often with retreats, you have to consider that maybe the price of the retreat doesn't include transportation for those students. So that will be an additional cost to them. I have also taught half-day retreats where they're from 12 till 6 p.m., but there is no lunch. We ask students to bring their own packed lunch or a sharing plate, and we all sit communally and eat together. So Lunch would then be an additional cost to your students, as well as their transportation. When it comes to contracts, it depends on who you're working with. So, for example, if you are working out of your regular yoga studio, depending on the relationship you have with the studio owner and what practices and policies they have in place, you may be signing a contract when you are renting the space from them. There might be a policy in place whereby there is a set amount that you pay for the rental of the space per hour, or it could be that it's based on a percentage of what you make during that workshop. So maybe you take home 80%, they take home 20%. It could be something set up like that. And often that involves a contract. When you're working with a retreat center, there will definitely be a contract in place. Often you are working with bigger timelines, bigger expenses. So for sure, you'll want to make sure you have everything in writing and it is clearly laid out. You'll also want to check your cancellation policies, refund policies before you sign off on anything. And like I said before, for some people going into their first workshop or retreat, they are not looking to make money. They are simply looking to gain experience. And that was definitely the case for me when I hosted my first workshop. And then when I stepped a little bit further into this world and hosted my first retreat, I was hoping to break even, but I was not concerned or worried about making money off this. I was doing this as an addition to my regular work week. So, if I made money, great. If I didn't, nothing was lost. So please make consideration for that because, if you want to get into this world, you obviously need to have experience. But if you don't give yourself the opportunity to have experience and take the risk of trying, you will still be at the beginning of this journey. So please make sure it makes sense for you financially. Know that there is, of course, some risk involved. And that is why I'm going to go back to what I said at the very beginning. Listen to your community, put the feelers out. Ask them, is this something that you would be interested in before you make any sort of financial commitments? When it comes to logistics, this is a huge part of the planning procedure, whether you're in a workshop world or a retreat world. There are many things to consider. And I do find that once you have established yourself, say in one retreat location, and you go back to them consistently, those logistical plans do fine-tune themselves. But in the beginning, when you are setting up contracts, you're new to a space, you're new to this relationship you're building with a retreat owner, there can be quite a bit of time needed to put aside to set up waivers, set up contracts, understand the policies, rules, and regulations of the retreat space, maybe going to the retreat space to have a look around, assess the areas that you might want to teach in. All of that takes time. But if you establish a space that you really love, you build a great relationship with the owner, those logistics start to iron themselves out a little bit. It's really good to keep everything online, keep copies of everything online, such as your schedule template, your waivers, your information sheet for the participants, how to get there, what to bring, additional costs, all those things. Once you have your templates in place, it becomes much easier going forward to tweak and adjust. Okay, how do you choose the right venue or location? This is a great question. So you want to firstly look at your community, keep asking them questions about if you were to host a retreat, where would you be willing to travel to? Are there areas that you're interested in exploring? Would you be comfortable taking a ferry or driving X amount of distance? Would you be comfortable taking a flight? And how long would you be willing to go for? And how much would be a good price point for you? All of this needs to be taken into consideration when you are thinking about the location. You might choose to do a survey with your community and see what answers come back to you, and that might help. I always say start slowly. Take baby steps. Do your first do your first workshop in a location that a lot of your community already are familiar with and know. Maybe instead of doing your 1 hour regular class at the weekend, you do a 2 or 3 hour workshop there. The price point won't be out there. It won't be extreme for your participants to access. They will get that experience of going a little deeper into their practice. You will get the experience of learning the ropes of logistics and financial commitments involved in hosting a workshop, as well as learning how to hold space for a longer period of time. And then from there, maybe you step into a half-day retreat. These honestly are my favorites. They are something that you can offer multiple times a year. You can usually find spaces locally that are not too far for people to travel to. And when you host these on a weekend, it really gives your students an opportunity to kind of reset for the week to come. Maybe you offer them once every season as a little way to kind of put to bed the season that's been and set intentions for the season that's to come. Maybe you offer them at the beginning, middle, and end of the year as a kind of bookmark to acknowledge how you're getting on as the year unfolds. The half-day retreats are a great way to experience that retreat environment, but not having to go away for a long period of time, not having to commit a huge amount of costs. Also, you're supporting your local businesses. Maybe not far from you, there is a retreat venue that's in a castle or on a farm or in the forest or at a hot cold therapy spa facility. There are many, many creative ways to find retreat spaces. And it might be that you go to a venue that's never had a yoga retreat before because you love that venue and you can see the possibility. And maybe you approach them to see if they'd be willing to host or have your group there as a trial run for a yoga retreat. So that is how I would go about choosing. It's community driven. It's also got to make sense financially for you. And I would say start slowly before you start diving into hosting 7-day international retreats. If you've never done that before, start a little smaller, build confidence and experience, understand the ropes of what it entails, and go from there. Okay, what makes a workshop or retreat successful beyond just the attendance numbers? All right, so this is a really great question. And if you are looking to create a well-rounded experience for your students, there are many things to consider. First thing is choosing a theme, something that anchors the experience, whether it is a nervous system reset, whether it is a woman's circle, whether it is, I have one called Rest, Reflect, Recharge. And there's lots of journaling and meditation and restorative practice. Choosing a theme will help you when designing your event, scheduling things out, making sure that everything is coherent and makes sense for the space that you are teaching out of, the time of year, the community that's going to show up. So I think that is huge, making sure that the theme is clear and all the offerings within the retreat are connected to that theme. Another thing that is going to make your event successful is your organizational skills, your transparency, and your communication. So make sure that when you are dealing with financial transactions, it is professional and organized. Maybe you have a Stripe or Shopify account, or you're taking e-transfers, you're giving your customers receipts, you are following up with an information sheet a few weeks before the event, giving everybody all of the details needed for where the location is, what to bring, what to expect. Any hidden costs should never be hidden. Everything should be out in the open before somebody signs up. So if transportation is not included, if meals are not included, you need to make sure that you tell your students this beforehand. If props are not included and they need to bring their own props, you make sure that they know that ahead of time as well. Anything about the venue that would be important to know, such as limited parking, or whether they work on a septic system, or what the heating and air conditioning systems are like, so people can prepare with layers. All this information, however small you might think it is, however obvious you might think it is, make sure it is communicated to your students so there are no surprises when they arrive. This is going to help build trust. It's going to help things work seamlessly and smoothly on the day. So yeah, organization, communication, transparency. I think those are the three keys to ensuring your retreat is successful. Another sweet thing that you can do on retreat is to gift your students something. This is often a little add-on, a little cherry on the top, a little surprise for the students, something that they're not expecting was covered in the cost. And this could be anything from a journal and a pen. It could be an oracle card. It could be some local handmade items. It could be an aromatherapy offering. I like to collaborate with local women-owned small businesses to put together retreat goodie bags for my guests. So this might include a loose leaf tea. It might include a local natural soap. It might include an aromatherapy spray. I've also, over time, started to get my logo printed onto items like journal pens, tote bags, journals, so that you are gifting something to your students to take home with them. This is such a sweet thing to do for your guests. It lets them know that you really see them, that you're taking care of them. And for them, it's like, wow, I was not expecting this. It's just a really lovely little surprise. And it might be that this is all laid out as the students arrive for their first practice. It might be something that you give to everybody as they leave on the final day. Sometimes it's a workbook. Sometimes it's some journaling prompts. It can be as creative as you want. The more intentional it is and connected to your theme, the better. All right, next one. What are the most common mistakes or challenges new hosts experience, and how can they be avoided? The most common mistakes, I think it goes back to what makes your retreat successful. So, a common mistake would be assuming that your students know this venue, they know how to get there, they know everything about this venue. That is a very common mistake, and that can lead to all sorts of issues on the day of the retreat that you really weren't prepared for as the teacher. When it gets to the day of the retreat or your workshop, you are so laser focused on offering your scheduled programming. You want to make sure that your messaging gets delivered, that everybody has a coherent, cohesive, well-rounded experience. It is a lot. You're holding space for all these people. You're helping them to settle perhaps into a new environment. And so when you get these curveballs that throw up because somebody didn't realize that they needed to carpool, or somebody didn't realize that they needed to bring their own lunch. When these things happen on the day of your experience, it can be extremely challenging and energy draining to deal with, while also trying to support all the other students that you have in the space. So, just like I said, be as clear and transparent from the beginning as possible. And this all comes down to your organization and your communication. I would say one of the challenges as a new host is not realizing how much energy and output you are going to be giving at these events. And when you're doing it alone, it can be extremely demanding. So it can be really nice, especially in the beginning, to have a support with you. Maybe that support is in the form of a friend or a co-teacher, somebody who comes along to the event with you, and maybe they help with sign-in and orientation. Maybe they help with hands-on adjusting in class if they're a yoga teacher, or gentle nurturing touch. Maybe they support you with cleaning the space before and after. Maybe you bring with you somebody who can offer live sound in the space. Having that additional person, maybe they even co-teach with you. Maybe you share this experience of offering a retreat or workshop together. Having that additional person, that additional support can make a huge difference in how the day or days unfold for you, especially in the beginning when you are navigating all of this for the first time. It can be really nice to have that person to lean on, to delegate tasks to help the person who got lost getting to the event, to support the person who needs to take a moment outside and have a breather, to just go and check in and make sure they are okay while you continue to deliver the rest of that planned class, etc., etc. Other challenges or mistakes can be taking on too much too soon. So like I said, don't dive straight into a very, very expensive spa-like international yoga retreat when you've never hosted a retreat before. Don't dive into these things because it's what you want to do without having listened to your community first. That can cause lots of financial issues if you do that. The final common mistake or challenge that I have learnt from my own experience is over planning, trying to squeeze too much into the experience. Make sure that you simplify the offering and give space between things. Give space for free time, give space for bathroom breaks, give space for time outside, Give more time for the offerings too, a bit longer for the meditation, a bit longer for the journaling, a bit longer for that shavasana, because you don't want to feel like you are rushing through just to rush through and cram everything in. We really don't know on the day how things are going to flow and weave. This is also meant to be a retreat or, a grounding experience for your students. So you don't want to feel like you're route marching them through. So simplifying, making sure it stays on theme and is intentional, and gives space for things to be integrated before you move on to the next task or activity. What kind of marketing or promotion do you suggest when advertising an event? This is a great question because I think over time this continually changes. There was a period of time where we were very much into Facebook marketing, advertising, or we were very much into printing posters and kind of slapping them around local coffee shops or lampposts or studios. I think this is always changing, and I think it also depends on the community that you're trying to reach. For myself, the best ways of promoting that I have found have been word of mouth. Whenever I am getting close to an event, I will share that with my students at the end of classes, giving them reminders that event is coming up, where to book, where to find out more information. I also include this in my monthly newsletters, giving links to everything for people to explore the calendar, the events page, and everything, clicks to purchase if people want to secure spots. I find that as well for myself, my experience is having posters up at the spaces that I teach in with QR codes that they can scan, and that links them back to my website where they can read about the event and, of course, book the event. Those have been the most successful ways I have found, but I know other teachers who perhaps have a big social media following, find that advertising on their social media platforms is the best way for them to fill their spots. So those are usually the best ways. But again, this really does depend on where you are, who your community is, and how you're going to reach them. How should teachers prepare to hold emotional space for participants, especially during longer retreat style offerings? What a great question this is. This one is very, very important. I think there is a pre-retreat kind of self-care package that you need to offer yourself as the teacher, and a post self-care kind of self-care package. Pre-retreat, I think the things that are very important is, again, organization, making sure you've got all your ducks lined up in a row. You are not scrambling last minute. That's going to completely dysregulate your nervous system. So plan everything weeks ahead of time. All your goodie bags, your waivers are all up to date. Your information sheet has been sent out. All of your final communications with the retreat center, your travel, everything is lined up well ahead of time. So there is no rushing or scrambling last minute. So preparation is key. And then looking after yourself. So doing some self-care practices that help regulate you, whether that is going to yoga, being out in nature, your baths, your journaling or meditation practices, your breath practices, whatever it is that helps you to feel at your center that helps you to feel your most grounded, your most replenished. We all know what those little routines and rituals are for ourselves. So make sure in the few weeks leading up to the event that you are doing those things, so that by the time the event arrives, your tank is full and you are not running on empty. You are not running on depleted. And for some people, again, of course, depending on your financial circumstances, some people might opt out of teaching some of their regular schedule in that week leading up to their event, just so that they can fully recharge, regroup, recenter. Now, post-retreat, you're kind of doing a lot of that same stuff. You want to make sure that after the retreat, you refill. So all of those practices, just like before the retreat, you're going to do afterwards to fill yourself back up, because you will have poured so much of your energy, time, love, presence into your offering that you will for sure need some time and space after. For me, I love the first 24 hours after an offering to be pretty quiet and still. I kind of go into a little bit of a hibernation state. So whether that is, just being in solitude, taking some slow mindfulness walks, taking a bath, having a massage, again, whatever those things are that help you to replenish. A sound bath is great, or going to a restorative class or a guided meditation, something that's very still and quiet. But that's me. Some people really thrive off all the energy of being with all those people, and they actually have an excess of energy after these offerings. So if that's you, you might find that you actually need to go out for a run or a cycle. You need to go to a dance party. You need to use some of that adrenaline in other ways. So I think the post-retreat self-care really depends on your personality, whether you're more of an introverted or extroverted person, and knowing whether you're feeling depleted at the end. And feeling depleted at the end isn't because, oh my gosh, that was so draining and exhausting, I'm never doing that again. That's not the depletion. The depletion is just because you have put so much energy, effort, time, love into this experience for your guests. You wanted them to have this well-rounded, beautiful retreat. You've held space for all these individuals and all their energy. And it's from that place that you feel a sense of depletion. You can also feel very filled up from what you just delivered. But for me, I know that after that kind of big effort and outpouring, I have to retreat inwards again to replenish, ready for the next. So please consider how you're feeling afterwards and the things you need to do to make sure that you can return to your center and show up for the next week, where you're probably back in your regular teaching schedule and maybe planning the next event. Okay, what encouragement or advice would you offer to someone nervous about taking the first leap into workshops and retreats from your own experience? I think the encouragement would be, you can do it. Do not let self-doubt stop you from doing this. You have so much to offer your students, so much to give, and your unique, authentic voice is needed, and your unique, authentic teaching is needed. And just because there might be 100 other yoga teachers offering 100 other events, workshops, retreats, it doesn't matter, because you are unique. What you have to offer is unique. Your community is unique. And so do not let any of the outside noise distract you, or let you feel like you shouldn't do it, you can't do it, there's no point. No. You have something to offer, you are passionate about, you want to grow as a teacher, you want to challenge yourself as a teacher, you want to move into this next kind of phase of your teaching journey. And I applaud that. That is amazing. That shows that you are not going to be stagnant or get stuck. It shows that you have ambition and drive. It shows that you really care about your community and want to offer them more experience, more depth in learning, more teachings. So know that you are enough and that you can do this, that you should do this. Everything else I've already said. Just make sure that you're taking care of yourself financially, that this makes sense for your community in terms of venue, in terms of time commitment. Make sure that you are organizing yourself well. Don't take on too much too soon. Don't commit to teaching 4 retreats one after the other when you've never done one before. Just take small bite sizes and build upon those experiences. Start with a workshop, get a couple of those under your belt, maybe then move into those half-day retreats, then maybe a full day, then maybe an overnight, then maybe an international, so on and so on. As far as you want to go, as far as your community wants to go. I think that's it. I really have said everything else. If you have any other specific questions based on any of this, please reach out to us at Your Yoga Flow Studio. You can connect with us on email at support. You can also comment on any of our classes if you want to start a conversation. We have some great student development sessions on hosting workshops and retreats. We also have some other podcasts on hosting workshops and retreats, so check those out too. We thank you so much for joining, and I really hope that this FAQs episode of the Live Your Yoga podcast has been a conversation that's helped to give you some more insight into the process of hosting workshops and retreats, and that it inspires you to take that next step for yourself and for your yoga community. If you have more questions, ideas, or want support with your own offering, feel free to reach out. You can ask for me specifically, Joanna. I would be more than happy to connect with you and to work through your questions. I'm really passionate about this aspect of teaching and growing as a teacher, so I would love to support you with this. Until next time, thank you for being part of the Your Yoga Flow community and the Live Your Yoga podcast, and for all the work you do in the world. Take care and see you soon.